welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us today, we are talking about being present in relationships. And before we went on the break, you had asked me about what it looks like for a kid to see their parent being present in their relationship. So I just want to ask you that question vice versa. What does it look like when I'm present in our relationship?
That's a great question. First of all, from the parent's perspective, I can't expect you to be present until I've learned how to be present. I think it's unfair for me to say it looks like this because most kids aren't present. Most kids are unconscious to a certain degree that they live up in their mind, 80% of the time. There was funny because there was a statistic about mind wandering. I don't know if you ever heard that term. Mind wandering is something that we do as human beings. The mind just wanders.
Like daydreaming.
Yeah, we're daydreaming, but we're really thinking about other stuff. Like you can be here talking to me right now and wondering, where you parked your car or where you're going to go after we get off the radio. Or so our mind wanders, and I thought it was a pretty amazing statistics. It says that the statistic is 40% of the time people are thinking about other things than currently being in the present moment. 40% we are mind wandering. So kids are, I think, especially in today's world with technology being so advanced and we're so overstimulated with technology, our brain is just constantly moving and it doesn't really allow us to be present in the moment. So I don't expect any kids, teenagers, young adults to really fully be present unless they're being taught how, or their parents are modeling it or talking about it, or they're opening up conversations about it or pointing it out, and that they're working on it, in a committed way, in a conscious way. So I wouldn't really expect you to be present. What I expect is for me to master the art of being present in our relationships, and that you're learning from my example, and then slowly, a little bit at a time, you're going from 30% present to 60% present to 80% present until you're now in your mid-30s really conscious and present, and you're being that like that and showing up like that in the world and in your relationships. I don't know if that's a good enough answer for you. I just think that, and it's a great question, I just don't think that I would ever expect for any kids to be present. It's like I'm a mirror for you. If I want you to be present, I have to choose to be that present for you in the relationships, and you're watching me be present, and all of a sudden you're responding the same way that I have this tick and I blink, and all of a sudden I'm noticing you're blinking because I'm blinking. It's the same way.
Are we doing that right now?
Not now, but there are times when I'm really like in it and my eyes are blinking a lot, and I can tell I'm blinking because guess who's blinking?
Me.
You are. So if I want my kids to be present and give me their attention when we're talking, I have to learn how to master that art because we're mirrors for each other.
Yeah, and one of the things I was kind of thinking of too, because I was anticipating your response because I needed to come up with a response too. So one of the things I was thinking of was I can see a lot of parents blaming technology and saying, my kid's not present because he's on his cell phone during dinner or during family time. And a lot of parents choose to respond to that by either taking the phone or collecting it just during that hour or whatever it is. But I don't necessarily like that response just because I would want my kids to be able to be fully present with that temptation there. I think it would probably make them a little bit stronger and a little bit more able to resist going on your phone when somebody's having a conversation with you.
But any parent can use that excuse. It's a great excuse. We can blame and be the victim to all kinds of circumstances. Look at TV now, it's got our kids this, and, with phones and technology, and we can find all the data and all the articles about how millennials are not present and their 90% faces buried in the cell phone and all that. That's not powerful. Anybody can pull excuses. What's powerful is asking me what's missing from me that I can't engage my kids for them to have that phone be down. How do I become interesting enough so that my kids want to spend time with me and that their phone goes down? That's powerful. When I can ask myself that question and learn how to master those different ways of being to hook your heart or get your attention or to have you shift and put that phone down to be interested in what I'm talking about or what I want to engage in with you, that's powerful. That's mastery. And so that's what I teach, and that's what I coach, and that's what I believe in is instead of pulling the trump card out of your back pocket and using that victim card going, yeah, but this, and my kids don't do it because of that. And we can hide behind that all day long. None of that's going to have the relationship be different. What's going to be different is when you start to look at, what's missing from me that I'm not interesting enough that my sons or daughters are choosing something else to engage in rather than engaging in a conversation with me.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't think it necessarily has to do with not being interesting enough or being more interesting than whatever it is they want to see on their phones or computers, but also to teaching them the value of being present. So, for example, if you've heard the same story 100 times by your grandfather, the second you pick up your phone and start texting during his story, he's probably going to get mad or offended or upset. And teaching your kids the value of listening to that story 100 times might be the one thing that keeps them interested.
And that's a great insight for teaching the kid that. But what's the insight for me and me holding myself accountable as a parent? From the parent's perspective, I have to look at how do I not tell that story over and over again expecting you to be interested in it. I either have to say it in a different way or be more interesting about it or create a different story. I have to learn how to reinvent myself. So I'm talking about being interesting. I'm talking about reinventing myself, growing, discovering, evolving, and creating more tools in my tool belt. If you're a parent that only has a few tools in your tool belt, you're not going to be very effective at whatever project or whatever result you want to create or whatever goal you want to go to. You have to, every week, every month, create new tools to put in your tool belt so that you are fully evolved and that you're able to pull out any tool that you need in any circumstance. Because, believe it or not, kids are deep and they're growing and they're intelligent and they're smart and they're evolving on their own side. They're becoming more crafty and they're learning different ways to either manipulate or check out or tune you out. Being a parent in today's world is very daunting and is challenging, and it takes a big commitment to get ahead of that learning curve.
Yeah, I think right now it's more than just the old school idea of having a kid and raising a family. It's more like having a kid and raising a good kid or raising a decent kid or a healthy kid. And, it's like it's not as easy as it sounds or as easy as people make it seem. And
the reason why it's not easy is because I have to work on me first. And a lot of parents don't want to really subscribe to that. They want to figure out how to teach their kid without them learning it, how to get their kid to be that great, but I don't have to go there because, and then all of a sudden I'll pull out all my reasons why, all my excuses. So our kids are only modeling and mimicking and mirroring our growth as far as I'm willing to go, as much courage as I'm willing to muster up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think, I guess every time you say something, I imagine a scenario. So in this scenario, that is attainable. You can do that. You can totally have your kids win and be better than you without you doing any type of growth or development or working on yourself. But there's going to be a limit and there's going to be a limitation. So if you want your kid to be smarter than you and go to college and have more information than you can do that. You can put them through school and make them study and be, very controlling and tell them they have to get A's or they're grounded. But their emotional intelligence will only go as far as yours does.
That's right. And I'm glad you said that, because I just saw a program the other night about tiger moms. You know about tiger moms?
No, but you can use my context clues.
Okay. So tiger moms, it was a program about tiger moms, and the tiger moms were really rigorous about making their kids and forcing their kids to learn and study extra hours or playing 2 or 3 hours on the piano and just, and pushing them and forcing them to become that child or that young adult that they visualize. And when they did the study and they followed some of these kids, they were creating extraordinary things. They were at Berkeley, they were at Harvard, they were, doing some pretty incredible things. And obviously those kids outgrew their parents because their parents forced them, made them to do it without them working on themselves and raising their context to that level. But I think you're right. There is some context that was missing. There is some emotional growth that was supposed to go along with it, and it didn't. It just became about becoming good or great at something. it became superficial. That growth was superficial. It was about making more money. It was about going to a prestigious school. It was about the doing and the having. What was missing was the beingness, and you didn't teach your kids how to be a higher level of loving, higher level of compassionate and vulnerable and intimate and forgiving and courageous. There's a lot of those contextual things that were missing because you just forced them to do more, better, different, and have more, better, different. But where's the beingness? Where's the magical ingredients? And that was what's missing in all of this segment that I saw in the Tiger Mom scenario. But for you just basically painted that same picture.
Yeah, the way I see it too is that part is easy. It doesn't sound easy.
I don't know
it
if it's
doesn't sound that easy. But sending your kid to an expensive college and working them until they get to where you want. Not that it's easy, but it's easier than you looking at yourself and saying, hey, you know what, I need to be more loving to my kid, or he's not going to be in a loving relationship when he gets older, or all those things that you have to look at yourself and kind of admit to, tell on yourself about. Those are the hard or those are the challenging things that make your kid better. And I hate to say better because your kid's already perfect, great, exactly the way they're supposed to be. But to kind of push them.
I like using the word more effective. They're going to be more effective in their life as a leader, navigating the extraordinary challenges that the world's going to throw at them in their life and in their relationships. But they're going to be better equipped at it if you develop your own context while you're teaching your kids these contextual breakthroughs and new distinctions, and they're manifesting that within themselves. They're going to be solid and centered and grounded and focused, and just going to be well balanced.
Yeah, and another thing too is if you have more than one kid, this is going to be, obviously a challenge, and most people do, but taking each kid and noticing what works and what doesn't, and reinventing yourself in that way too. It's not just about how to make this one kid perfect. It's about making all of them, or raising all of them in a way that works for them.
Well, I think if you're focused on you learning how to be more loving, more compassionate, more vulnerable, more honest, more courageous, and you're teaching those fundamental distinctions, then it goes to all kids. All kids are learning those fundamental things in their beingness, and then they springboard from those fundamental principles and those ways of being, and then they take that with them, and then it's universal, rather than forcing each kid to do something specific, because then you got to now deal with personalities, right? Before we run out of time, I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of being present in your relationship. So I wrote down a few of them, and we probably won't get to all of them, but you tell me which one seems more interesting to you. One of the benefits of being present for your teenagers is that when you're present, you're actually validating who they are. And the reason why you're validating who they are and their existence is because kids need to be seen. Human beings need to be recognized. We need to be validated that we exist. And so when you're present and in the moment, you're probably making eye contact with your kids, and eye contact is very powerful. It allows the other person to be seen. And I think that's important and very often missed in unconscious relationships. We're not really seeing each other. We're just seeing about each other. And you can tell when you're in a conversation with somebody and they're really present, it almost looks like they're looking right through you. And if you're unaware, have never had that kind of experience, it's kind of this awkward feeling. But one of the benefits is that we validate our teenagers when we're present in a relationship. Another thing is that we confirm to them that they matter to us. We confirm to our kids when we're present that they're important to us. When we're right there and in the moment with them, we validate that there's some significance and some value to being in that relationship. The third thing is that we assure them that you are here for them when they need me. So me being present is just a constant reminder that every time you're in dire straits or in need of my support, because the last 7, 8, 12, 20 times that we've engaged in a relationship or a conversation, I've always really been present. So that assures you that the next time I'm stuck or need something, I always know my dad's going to be there, my mom's going to be there, because they're always present and in the relationship, and they've always, by being present, letting me know that they're there to support me.
Yeah, one thing I want to say about that real quick is just we've said this before, but in the example where I'm upset and I go to my room and you bug me until I open the door and tell you what's going on, that kind of persistence and noticing that something's wrong and still coming back even though I reject you until you go away, I don't want to talk to you.
But first of all, let's just put this on the record. You don't reject me. I know what you're trying to say. For
parents who feel like they're being rejected.
The parents that feel like they're being rejected because every time they make an attempt to check in on them, they get the door slammed or stop it, Dad, or leave me alone, and they're pushing you away, is very easily to interpret feeling rejected. But when you get to a certain point, when you're working on yourself, a light switch turns on inside of you, and you start to live your life, especially with your kids, where you don't take things personal. It's not about me. It's about my son or my daughter has some warning signs saying something's happening. They need me. And I don't care if it takes 3 times, 4 times, 8 times, but every attempt I make and every time that you find a way to not let me in, I don't see it as a rejection, even though it can easily be interpreted or perceived as a rejection from the other person.
Right. So just to clarify, that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to reject you. We are going through our own thing, and it's not about you. So just give us our time, because eventually one day we're going to open the door.
I'm glad you said that.
And after we open the door, next time you won't have to come knocking, because I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, there's a certain time where you can only play that game so many times. The 3rd time, the 5th time, by the 6th or 7th time, you're going to now come to the conclusion that, look, my dad is not going to give up. So I might as well just now, open myself up. And he's just relentless and rigorous about me, and he cares, right? So then now you start creating these new beliefs that my dad does care and he's not going to give up until I finally just become honest and just open up and share with him. And before we go to the break, let me get to this other one. Another thing that we do when we're present and in the moment is that we affirm to our kids that you can trust me. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that it now creates a whole new level of trust when I'm present. When I'm not present, it's almost like, why bother? Why bother sharing with you, because you're checked out or you're tuned out and you're not listening to me anyways. Therefore, I don't trust you now. So one sure way to get your kids to trust you is to really master the art of being present when your kids either want to engage with you or you figured out how to hook them to be able to engage with you. It's important to really be there and be present in the moment.
Yeah, sometimes it's really scary to admit something that's going on or, bare your soul to somebody. And if they're not listening to you, it's almost like a slap in the face or like, I'm not really here for you. I'm not what you think I am, kind of thing. And that's really could be very devastating to a kid, especially a teenager who's coming to you with their the worst thing that's ever happened to them. And you're not really there for them.
You're there. You're just not there.
Present.
Yeah. You're not present. That's it.
That was your list?
Well, no, I thought we were going to a break.
Okay, we're going to our break now. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us today, we are talking about being present in relationships. And of course, if you ever want to hear it again or you missed any part of it, you can find our podcast online. So before we went on the break, we went through a little list of all the benefits, and the remaining of the show was kind of a list of the negatives, the things that backfire if you're not paying attention to your kids. But I had a really quick question before we wrap up. I guess as a teenager, I went through a lot of kind of wanting my parents to ask me what's wrong. I remember kind of just sitting in my room like, God, I hope my mom comes in. It was never my mom, it was always my dad. But I remember kind of going through that. So I just want to make it clear, and I'm getting kind of emotional because I remember being a young teenager wanting help and wanting attention or love or just any type of support. So if you think your kids are rejecting you, it's just part of their process and part of their cycle. So, from one previous teen to a parent, I would tell you, keep going back, keep bugging them. Even if they yell at you, they tell you they hate you, go away, don't come in here, leave me alone. Keep going back, because eventually they're going to break. And I don't know why we do it. I don't know why we say, go away, I don't want to talk to you, even though we do. I think it's just the fear coming up for us that our parents aren't going to understand, or our parents are going to judge us for whatever we did. So I just wanted to make it clear that if you're a parent, keep going back, keep bugging them, because whether you know it or not, they need you.
Absolutely. And they need, not only do they need you to be resilient. They need you to, again, not take it personal. They need you to develop and grow internally so that you don't take that as a diss to you, or a rejection, or a turning you down. You have to be able to work on yourself to the point where you look right past that, and that you're committed to figuring out how to find that little back door. You have some back doors there that it took me a little while, but I figured out how to sneak in the back door so that I can finally sit down with you, have you trust me, be vulnerable, and it takes some work. It takes a rigorous commitment to break through that wall to finally get you to be vulnerable and open up and share, so that I can help you. Most parents, it just seems too daunting, too hard. It's like, man, how do I help this girl? She just won't let me in. But they will. What you're saying is, there's a little trick switch there that you can get to, but you got to find it. And when you find it, man, what a difference it makes. Because when you find that switch and you flip it, they will open themselves up to you. And what you'll create is a whole new level of trust and credibility. And you'll be able to get in there and make that kind of a difference.
Yeah, I know that for me, it's not that I was bottling anything up, or I needed any type of, release, because I could tell my friends. I told my friends, my sister, and everybody what was going on, but they didn't, or they weren't able to offer the advice that my parents could have.
But it's not even the advice. I think it's, again, the validation.
Well, it's everything: comfort, feeling loved, or feeling whatever it is.
But that all of that is just validating that we care, you matter to me, you're important, and you need to feel that on the other end. You need to know that when I'm there and I'm willing to kind of keep pushing and pushing and pushing until finally I break through and I get into the inner circle of you, and you're now open and share. Now you're feeling important. You feel like you matter. You feel like I care about you, and now you're being validated. And I think that's what's important, is to keep pushing through, because eventually there will be a breakthrough. They can't keep pushing you to the point where one of you is going to break. And I think that the parents are breaking first, rather than going, no, I'm determined to figure out how to get to this girl's heart, because she matters and I love her and I want her to win. And no matter what, I'm going to figure out how to do that. You got to be resilient.
I think a lot of parents might also be comparing their results to their other kids. So, for example, if you go to your daughter and she rejects you every time, but you go to your son and he only rejects you 2 times, and it only took a couple of weeks to get in there, and it's taking you months to get into your daughter's room. I think they're saying, you know what, it's too hard. Or
great insight. And I see it all the time. I'll have parents that'll say, Timmy, just a couple times and boom, he lets me in. With Jennifer, wow, it's like, we go through these tug of wars. And so what you end up doing is comparing. Well, par for the course is 2 or 3 times. But when we get to 9, 10 times with Jennifer, obviously now you've decided that to compare the two, and 9 or 10 times seems like it's overkill, like it's too much. Instead of, each kid is going to have their own unique par for the course. And I don't know, you only know that if you play golf, what par for the course means. But it means that that's the amount of times that it's going to take for each kid. And they're different. Don't compare them.
Yeah, and again, I'm not sure, and we're going to leave on the break right now, but I'm not sure what it is about kids that they don't want to let you in and they want you to keep coming back. I don't know what it is, but just know that that's a thing and it's there. So that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us on My Conscious Dad with me, Jasmine Urbina, and my dad, Alex Urbina. We're here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.